Day 1, Farmington, Utah to Stevensville, Montana. The day had finally arrived for the big ride. Everyone was so excited and we got an early start, meeting at Bob Payne's driveway just so we could wake up Clyde Jackson next door. Matt Tittle arrived fashionably late, wearing his do-rag and having his cooler stocked with refreshing beverages. Before the trip was over, Matt's cooler would be referred to as manna from the sky. 6 Hogs started out that morning from Farmington with plans to pick up Austin in Downey, Idaho. We stopped for lunch in Arco, Idaho, next to a half-buried submarine in the middle of the Idaho desert. Pickle's Place was awesome for lunch, and the afternoon had much in store. The Lost River Range, Bora Peak, Chalice, Idaho, Salmon, Idaho, and the Bitterroot Range in Montana. Little did we know at Pickle's Place that the fun was just about to begin. We met some like-minded motorcycle enthusiasts near Bora Peak, the highest mountain in Idaho. They were on a cattle drive with motorcycles, and this looked like great fun, and we wanted to join in. But Stu's Harley had other plans for us that day. We'll be rolling into Chalice, Idaho on fumes, and if possible, Stu's Harley will be driving with a pair of vice grips for the throttle. So yeah, situation update day 1, very promising. We'll see how this goes. Nothing a little zip tie and a vice grip won't fix, right?
Okay,
are we zip tying Stu's hand to the throttle?
If you lose your hand on that, you should still lose it. You should probably still pick it up. But...
Okay, situation update. We are here at Full Throttle ATV Service in Chalice, Idaho, and our friend Mark is helping us out, and we're hooking up a little loop throttle system that he does not have to use the vice grips anymore, but the loop to get him into Missoula.
Yeah,
here we go. Day 2, Stevensville, Montana to Newport, Washington. The Bitterroot Range was spectacularly beautiful. Stevensville was a quaint little town with a great place to eat, the Frontier Cafe, where we met some very interesting locals. Okay, situation update. We are in Stevensville, Montana, day 2. Stu here is going to demonstrate the very secure and safe technique of the 2-finger throttle. This is how he has ridden the last 200 miles into Stevenson. And we're heading to get a new throttle cable, hopefully, in Missoula, Montana at the Harley shop. So option 1 is they have a cable in stock, and we're on our way. Option 2 is Stu drives the remaining 2,500 miles with this little loop technique. Or option 3 is somehow we abandon the Harley and he has to ride with Matt Tittle in the Saturn Sky. So Stu, show us how this works. Here's the loop.
Shout out to Mark at Full Throttle. Or
and you usually use
throttle.
2 fingers?
That's the 1 finger.
Yes. Ingenious and extremely safe. We spent the morning at Grizzly Harley Davidson in Missoula, Montana, playing catch with our baseball mitts to keep us from buying a brand new Harley off the showroom floor.
All right, so what's the verdict here?
Verdict is you're screwed. Nah, we'll be fine. We'll figure out something for him.
Worst case, we could put the idle cable on there and run it that way.
Cable on the throttle. You don't need the return cable.
All right, we're good.
That's over.
We met some other interesting bikers on their journey while hanging out at the Harley shop, and we had many interesting conversations.
Stu, we're ready for an update here.
Those are all his lawyers.
Okay, what's the update, Stu?
New cable, everything's fixed, good to go, like new.
All right, let's roll, guys. Let's roll. How's it going, Mr. Victory?
Oh man, it's a new day.
New day, baby.
Stu did purchase some Harley Davidson socks for everyone. He probably overpaid. And before we knew it, we were back on the road again, not knowing what was in store for us only 30 minutes from Missoula. We rolled north out of Missoula to ride Montana Highway 200, commonly known as the Road to the Buffalo. We traversed the Flathead Indian Nation. We would visit 4 nations in total on this ride. The Road to the Buffalo is an epic river road through Big Sky country. The Indian was at home, and the Road to the Buffalo seemed like a journey to the divine. The Indian wants to return here with this fabulous river road, but until that time, this memory now adorns the wall of fame in the Indian's home garage. Day 3, Newport, Washington to Whitefish, Montana. We started early, knowing this day had much in store, including a sunset ride on the Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. We were searching for the perfect bridge for Austin to fly his drone and capture the wild hogs crossing a bridge. Dave Ellis said, "Has anyone ever been to Yak?" This was the first domino falling in place in our morning quest for a bridge. We entered our third nation, the People's Republic of Yak. Gratefully, we found some questionable gas in Yak and got some local knowledge on where to find said bridge. We headed out on a road that would take us so close to Canada that our cell phones alerted us, "Welcome to Canada." I can only describe the road from Yak to the bridge as a must ride. We finally dropped down off the ridgeline and got our first glimpse of the longest and highest bridge in Montana. The Koocanusa Bridge, spanning Lake Koocanusa and giving access to the fabulous Yak Valley. We had lunch in Eureka, Montana, at a wonderful place called Dewey Burger and Fish Company. They had all kinds of amazing specialty burgers, but I had to try the one with fried ice cream on a hamburger. It did not disappoint. We rolled onward to Whitefish, Montana, and destiny with our sunset ride in Glacier. We entered Glacier National Park, and the stunning scenery was everywhere. We stopped for one last pit stop at Avalanche Creek, right before traversing the Going to the Sun Road. In the grandeur of the rugged glacier-carved mountains all around us, I pointed out to Stu where we were headed, Logan Pass. From that viewpoint at Avalanche Creek, it almost seemed inconceivable how we were going to get to Logan Pass from there. And then you started to glimpse where the road was carved along the mountainside, and your mind starts to spin. We reached Logan Pass right as the visitor center was closing at 6 p.m. We had a short hike with stunning vistas up to the glacier. In the parking lot, we made a fateful decision to ride halfway down the other side before turning back and heading to Whitefish. Kelly just had to get the picture at St. Mary's Lake, and several other adventures ensued. When we did turn around, this put us back at Logan Pass right at sunset, almost like it was planned. The ride back down the Going to the Sun Road at twilight was a bucket list ride. We stopped for many pictures and videos and just soaked it in. Near the bottom, we just rode in silence, trying to process the whole evening. We chased the sun that evening, an experience I will never forget. Day 4, Whitefish Montana to the Palouse. Matt Tittle tried to get us to eat the leftover supermarket sushi from the night before, but luckily Dave Ellis stepped in and we found a great place for breakfast in Whitefish. The Road Kings received unsolicited compliments at breakfast, and Austin flew his drone down Main Street. At a morning pit stop, we met a redneck from Montana in a minivan whose vocabulary consisted of only colorful 4-letter words. Did you know that roadkill is actually 2 4-letter words hyphenated together? Uncle Mikey warned me that rednecks from Montana are the same as rednecks from Tennessee, just without the accent. Come to think of it, there are some Browns in my family that like roadkill, but that story will have to wait for another day. After lunch in Missoula, the long-awaited and much-anticipated Idaho Scenic Highway 12 lay in store. None of us had ever ridden Idaho Highway 12, which follows the route Lewis and Clark used to traverse this wilderness area, and the beautiful Loksha and Selway rivers. This road is commonly called the Lewis and Clark Highway, and is rated as the #1 road for motorcyclists in Idaho. We wholeheartedly agree with this assessment. We gassed up just before Lolo Pass, knowing the next services would be a while. We found a wilderness area that looks much the same as it did in 1805 and 1806 when Lewis and Clark passed through here. We entered our 4th nation on this trip, the Nez Perce Nation, and we found a beautiful winding river road for 99 miles. That afternoon, we stopped several times by the river to soak it all in. We dunked our shirts in the river, stood under waterfalls, and rode on. At one point, we decided it was time for Matt Tittle to lead the Wild Hogs in the Saturn Sky. This car was specifically created for a road like this. We watched as our manna from the sky peeled out like a bat out of roadkill, and we tried to keep up. Much to our chagrin, Matt's 4 wheels and road-hugging suspension were too quick for us, and he arrived at dinner well before the rest of the pack. Matt was able to decipher the menu at the steakhouse while the rest of us arrived, which saved us from trying to find our reading glasses. Shrimp cocktail for appetizer, prime rib for entree, shareable brownies for 2 a la mode for dessert. What could go wrong? However, with the ever-changing social distancing standards, we decided it would be best for each of us to order our own dessert. So if you're keeping track at home, that's 7 shrimp cocktails, 7 prime ribs, and brownies for 14.
Day 5.
The Palouse to Gooding, Idaho. We awoke at a bed and breakfast on the beautiful rolling hills of the Palouse, our favorite Airbnb of the trip. We only wish we had more time. The 100-year-old farmhouse with its various outbuildings, including a community church and cemetery, were all part of their farm. The views and country charm were only surpassed by the amazing hosts Carol and Randy. What an experience. Jenny has made me promise to take her there, so I think we'll be back. Carol said we were the nicest Mormon motorcyclists she has ever met. We headed out to follow Idaho 95 and 55 south, following, you guessed it, a river road. That afternoon, we recorded several triple-digit temperature readings. Not to worry when you're following a river road, as you just dunk your shirt in the river and ride on. Instant air conditioning. As evening approached, we opted for the long route to Gooding, bypassing Boise and riding through the Sawtooth Mountain Range instead. We chose well. A trout dinner in Stanley, Idaho, at the base of the Sawtooths awaited us. We lingered a little too long and found darkness approaching as we rode through the Sawtooths. We had to make tracks. Or we saw tracks. At Galena Summit, as Dave Ellis had a mountain lion cross the road right in front of him. Day 6. Gooding, Idaho to Farmington. We started our day in Gooding, and we knew we had one last day on our great adventure. After breakfast, we headed for Hagerman, Idaho, and the Thousand Springs Scenic Byway. What glorious views of the Snake River Gorge. The gorge was carved by the cataclysmic flooding of ancient Lake Bonneville through Red Rocks Pass and out through the Snake and into the Columbia River basins. The Thousand Springs Scenic Byway is a true gem in the Gem State. We rode down into the gorge by Twin Falls and had a brief pit stop by the golf course. We rode to the top to traverse the Perrine Bridge, and Austin got some great footage of the Snake River Gorge. We paid homage to Evel Knievel in his attempt to jump a motorcycle across the gorge in the 1970s. Next stop was scenic Shoshone Falls and more amazing drone footage. What a capstone to an epic week. We had ridden 2,500 miles. We had visited 4 states, 12 national forests, 44 counties, numerous lakes, rivers, byways, glaciers, waterfalls. We had seen it all. We met colorful people, heard very interesting stories, and shared amazing experiences with other travelers on the road. But most of all, we had shared these experiences with some really amazing neighbors and friends. The laughter never stopped. The stories over meals were highlights in and of themselves. We had earned our patches. We had ridden hard, and we had soaked it all in. But there was one final surprise left on the itinerary: lunch at the Garden of Eden. Not sure what Stu was thinking when he found out the Garden of Eden is actually a truck stop in Eden, Idaho, but a fitting way to end an unbelievable ride.